All right, buckle up, everyone, because today we're going deep on adulting.
Adulting, huh?
Yeah, all that grown-up stuff.
Oh, joys.
But luckily, we've got this great PDF as our guide, simply titled Adulting. Think of it like your cheat sheet for navigating all those, dilemmas that come with being, well, an adult.
Like that instruction manual you never got, right?
Exactly. And they really cover everything
I
from,
feel everything.
yeah, from silencing those pesky shame boomerangs,
I know all about those.
yeah, to, like, apartment hunting, mastering those kitchen essentials, heck, even,
Even escaping those parties you'd rather not be at.
oh, yes, the art of the, what do they call it?
The appearance and bounce. A true adulting essential, as they say.
I love that.
It is, it is.
Okay, so let's jump into it. The first section is all about mindset matters, and they really get right to it, talking about self-awareness and acceptance.
Which is so key, right? Because it's
Yeah.
about playing to your strengths instead of getting hung up on those weaknesses. And I think for a lot of us, we get caught up in that negativity bias.
Don't tell me about it.
Our brains just love to focus on mistakes, way more than we celebrate those wins.
That is so true.
But this guide, it really emphasizes how focusing on what you do well can really help rewire your brain, for more positivity and self-compassion.
Totally.
Yeah.
I mean, they even have an example in here about the author and how they used to get totally overwhelmed by, like, trying to have a perfectly organized home, like magazine-worthy.
Picture perfect pantry, the whole 9 yards.
And they just set them up for constant frustration.
And who needs that?
Seriously. So instead, they shifted to, like, smaller, more manageable goals. Like, instead of tackling the whole kitchen, just start with that one spice rack.
Totally. And it's those small wins that build momentum, right? You start to gain that confidence, to tackle those bigger areas.
Yeah. And that's so important. It's like being kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Like treating yourself with the same understanding and patience that you'd offer a friend who's struggling.
I love that. Absolutely.
Okay, so next up is shame boomerangs. I think we've all been there.
Oh, yeah.
You mess up, you apologize, but then that feeling of shame just keeps...
It lingers.
It lingers, exactly like a bad smell.
It does.
But this guide, it actually has a 3-step method for dealing with those shame boomerangs.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's step 1?
Step 1, acknowledge the mistake. Don't just shove it under the rug and pretend it didn't happen.
Own it.
Own it. And if you can fix it, take those steps to do so.
Right. So step 1 is facing the music, but what about preventing that blunder from happening again?
Well, that's step 2. It's all about figuring out how to avoid a repeat performance.
Okay, I like it.
Like maybe it's learning a new skill, maybe setting some healthier boundaries, or simply being more mindful of your actions.
So being proactive.
Exactly. But what happens when, inevitably, that shame boomerang swings back around?
Because they always do, right?
Oh, they do. They always do. Well, step 3 is about having a go-to coping mechanism.
Okay, like a shame-fighting tool.
Exactly. And the book suggests a couple of things. They say have, like, a mantra you can repeat, like, okay, it's done, I won't do it again. Or even...
come up with names for, like, a trio of Siamese kittens. They actually suggest that.
I know, right?
So random, but it's like giving your brain that little puzzle to solve,
yeah.
Right?
Instead of spiraling into that shame hole, it's like...
It's a distraction technique.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
And I love that because, sometimes we just need to, like, shift our focus.
Totally. And for those times when, those mental games just aren't enough, consider adding mindfulness exercises or journaling to your toolbox.
I love those. Those are great.
Really helpful.
Okay, now this next section, it's called Don't Be a Zebra. And it really caught my attention.
Okay, don't be a zebra. What's that all about?
Well, they use this analogy from the medical world. You know how they say...
When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Yes, that's it. Basically, don't jump to the worst-case scenario when common symptoms usually have pretty common causes.
So basically, that headache is probably not a brain tumor.
Right. Although, I'll admit I've definitely fallen into that...
that zebra thing.
Zebra thinking, yeah.
We all have. We all have.
But the thing is, anxiety, it can manifest physically.
Oh, absolutely. Those racing thoughts, those worries, they can trigger real, like, actual symptoms.
It's wild, right? So how do we, like, tame those health worries and not become a zebra every time we feel a little sniffle?
Well, first, acknowledge that anxiety might be playing a role.
Okay.
Right? And then try to pinpoint, like, what's the source of that anxiety?
Okay, so is it work stress? Is it relationship stuff?
Exactly. And addressing that root cause can often, like, alleviate those physical symptoms.
That makes a lot of sense. And I imagine, like, adding some stress-busting activities into your routine couldn't hurt.
Oh, for sure. Things like exercise, meditation, even just talking it out with a friend can make a world of difference.
So true.
Yeah,
And, if those strategies still aren't enough, there's no shame in reaching out to a mental health professional for support.
absolutely. Always a good reminder.
Okay, now let's talk about something I think a lot of people find really daunting. Uh, Apartment hunting.
Oh, apartment hunting. The struggle is real, right?
It is. And this guide, it takes such a refreshing, realistic approach, especially for, those of us in cities with, like, crazy competitive rental markets.
No, they don't sugarcoat it.
No, they don't.
But they do offer some, really practical advice.
They do. Like, they emphasize checking the water pressure during a viewing.
Which, honestly, that can make or break your morning routine.
Oh, totally agree. And they also say check the cell phone reception because,
You don't want to be stuck in a digital dead zone.
no, you don't.
And, these are things that you might overlook in the excitement of a viewing.
You do get caught up.
But they can really, really impact your quality of life.
They can.
And beyond those practicalities, the book really reminds you to prioritize that sense of, safety and comfort when you're making your decision.
Totally. At the end of the day, your home should be like a sanctuary.
It should be a place where you can, truly relax and recharge.
Exactly.
Okay, now get ready for this. The next section is domestic DIY.
Oh, DIY. Here we go.
But don't worry, it's not about, becoming a master builder overnight.
Yeah.
It's more about empowering you to handle those basic tasks, those little things that inevitably pop up around the house.
And they start with this great tip for matching paint, using a screwdriver.
Wait, a screwdriver?
Yeah. So you carefully chip off a tiny paint sample.
Oh, from a discrete area, right?
And then you take it to the hardware store, and they can scan it and match the color perfectly.
That's actually really clever.
It is, right. And then they have a list of, the 5 essential tools, everyone should own, courtesy of Ben, the handiest dude ever.
Ben the handyman, I like him already.
So Ben says you need a hammer, a set of screwdrivers, a wrench, pliers, and a tape measure.
Solid advice, solid advice. Although, I'd add a plunger to that list,
Oh, good one.
just for those, oh no plumbing moments.
Oh, speaking of which, you want to hear a story.
Always up for a good story. Lay it on me.
So one time I thought I was, going to be super handy and finish a leaky faucet myself.
Uh-oh.
Let's just say my bathroom ended up looking more like a swimming pool.
Oh no, not the swimming pool.
Yeah. Lesson learned, sometimes it's best to call a professional.
Sometimes you gotta know your limits.
Exactly. Okay, so moving on to a topic that may not be the most exciting, but it's definitely important.
Okay, let's hear it.
Cleaning 101.
Cleaning, all right. I'm all ears.
This section, it actually makes it seem less daunting by breaking it down,
Into manageable steps.
Yes. And they start with, the basic supplies. And did you know Dawn dish soap? It's basically a cleaning superhero.
Really? Dawn dish soap, huh? What can it do?
Apparently, nothing. It can handle everything from, greasy dishes to, bathroom grime.
Ah, good to know.
Right. The book also talks about the importance of sweeping, but, not just any sweeping.
Not just any sweeping, okay.
Yeah, they say you got to do it slowly and deliberately, because if you rush, you're just sending dust flying everywhere.
Okay, so slow and steady wins the cleaning race.
Exactly. And they recommend vacuuming hardwood floors, especially if you have pets.
Oh, definitely. Pet hair, it's a whole other level.
Oh, it is. Tell me about it.
And while we're on the topic of cleaning, it's a good time to mention those eco-friendly options.
Oh, yeah. Those are important.
You can actually whip up really effective cleaners using just natural ingredients like vinegar, baking soda, essential oils.
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
They're just as powerful as those commercial cleaners, but much kinder to, the environment.
And you could feel good about using them.
Exactly.
Okay, this next section is all about creating a space that actually feels like a sanctuary.
Ooh, I like that.
It's called Don't Be Sad at Home.
Don't be sad at home. I'm listening.
So it's all about the connection between our physical environment and our mental well-being.
Right, because our surroundings can really impact how we feel.
They can. And the message here is simple but so powerful: declutter and get rid of anything that evokes, negative emotions.
So that pile of clothes you never wear?
Yep.
Or that gift from your ex that's just gathering dust?
Yes, let it go. It's like creating space for positive energy to flow in.
I love that.
Right. And it actually ties into the whole minimalist movement, which is all about living with less stuff and focusing on what truly matters.
Which can be so freeing, honestly.
It is. So, think about it. What's one thing in your home you could part with today to create a more, joyful and positive atmosphere?
It's a good challenge.
It is. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so this one is for anyone who's ever moved. Moving day zen.
Moving day. Oh, boy. That can be stressful.
It can. This guide actually compares it to the emotional intensity of a breakup.
Wow, yeah, I can see that. The packing, the goodbyes, it's a lot.
It is. But they offer this reassuring piece of advice. The pain will eventually fade.
Like childbirth, they say.
Yeah, like childbirth. I guess the point is, even the toughest transitions, they eventually become a distant memory.
That's good to remember.
It is. And to help you get through it, they offer some tips for minimizing the chaos. They say, pack early, label everything really clearly, and don't be afraid to call in reinforcements,
Oh, like friends, family, anyone who can help.
Exactly. Because moving is definitely a team sport.
It is. It is. All right, what else do we have?
Okay, so now we're getting into the kitchen essentials.
All right, let's cook up some adulting skills.
Yes, and this section kicks off with a list of those must-have implements.
Okay, the tools of the trade, yes. And they really stress the importance of labeling those, mystery containers lurking in the pantry.
Oh, yeah, those unlabeled jars and Tupperware.
Yes. Like, what is in there?
Exactly.
A roll of masking tape and a Sharpie, they can be lifesavers.
They really can. No more guessing games with ingredients.
No more. And I'd add a handheld juicer to their list.
Oh, good one. Perfect for, lemons and limes.
Exactly.
Okay, now what about stocking the pantry?
Well, they have a sample grocery list of all the essential staples, baking supplies, spices, and those perishable items you always want to have on hand.
Essentials, right?
Yeah. And they have a pro tip for grabbing the freshest milk. Reach for the carton at the back of the shelf.
Okay, why the back?
Because it'll have the latest expiration date.
Oh, smart.
Right. It's all about those little details.
It is.
And for the ultimate time and money saver, they emphasize meal planning.
Meal planning, such a good idea.
It really is, to avoid those impulse grocery purchases.
Yeah, because those can really add up.
They can. Okay, are you ready to build some culinary confidence?
I think so. Hit me with it.
All right, culinary confidence. This section's all about those, tips and tricks for mastering the basics.
The cooking basics. I like it.
Yeah, they explain the thick enough to coat the back of a spoon test for sauces.
Okay, that's a classic.
Right. But they also recommend The Joy of Cooking as, the ultimate kitchen Bible.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. A classic for a reason.
Okay, are you ready to master the basics?
Let's do it. What are we mastering?
Mashed potatoes.
Mashed potatoes. All right, I'm in.
This guide makes a really strong case for ditching that instant stuff.
Oh, yeah, gotta go for the real deal.
The real deal. And they're not wrong. Real mashed potatoes. Surprisingly easy to make from scratch.
They are, and so much tastier.
And they share a secret ingredient that takes them to the next level. Roasted garlic.
Roasted garlic. Oh, yeah, that makes everything better.
It really does, right?
Yep.
And it's so simple to make. You just cut the top off a head of garlic, drizzle it with some olive oil, wrap it in foil, and bake it in a muffin tin.
That is easy.
It is.
Okay, I'm sold.
Okay, now for another culinary power move, we got to talk about puff pastry.
Puff pastry. Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Right. It's it could elevate any dish, sweet or savory.
It's so versatile.
It is. And the guide's got a ton of filling ideas. Everything from sautéed sausage and apples to minced mushrooms and thyme.
Okay, so the possibilities are endless.
They really are. You can get so creative with it.
All right, I'm inspired.
And for the ultimate indulgence, they have a bonus recipe for homemade whipped cream.
Homemade whipped cream. Okay, I'm listening.
And they describe it in such a vivid way. They say it's so good that when God feels so happy he could burst, he probably cries real whipped cream.
Okay, that's an image.
Right. I know. And they're not wrong. Homemade whipped cream is infinitely better than that store-bought stuff.
Oh, absolutely. It's light, fluffy. It's got that perfect sweetness.
All right, so we've covered cooking, but now let's talk about social skills and etiquette.
Okay, social skills. Always room for improvement there.
Right. Well, this section kicks off with something that's especially helpful for, those of us who aren't exactly party animals.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It's the art, the appearance and bounce.
The appearance and bounce, I like it.
All right, so it's all about making a polite exit from a party or event without having to come up with some crazy excuse.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to make a graceful exit.
Exactly. And they have a step-by-step formula for this.
Okay, let's hear it.
First, arrive on time, to show respect for the host.
Right, makes sense.
Then spend at least 30 minutes mingling, chatting with at least 3 different groups of people.
So you're showing that you're making an effort to be social.
Exactly. And then, here's the key, casually drop the line, I can't stay.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that. But say it in a voice of deep regret.
Ah, the power of
It's
delivery.
like, oh, I can't stay, but this has been such a great party.
Simple and effective.
Right.
I like it.
And what I love about this is it's really about setting those healthy boundaries, recognizing your own limits and prioritizing your time and energy.
Because sometimes you got to recharge.
Sometimes you do.
Absolutely. Okay, now what about those awkward moments when you're trying to remember someone's name?
Oh, we've all been there.
It's the worst.
It is. Well, this guide, it has a genius trick.
Okay, I'm all ears.
So when you meet someone new, ask for the spelling of their name.
Okay, I do that sometimes.
Right. But while you're doing that, subtly pull out your phone like you're taking notes.
I see where you're going with this.
But instead of taking notes, you snap a quick picture of them.
Sneaky, but brilliant.
Right. It's a sneaky way to create that visual association.
I love it.
And another great piece of advice they offer is listen more than you talk.
Oh, that's such a good one, and it's so simple.
It is, but it's so powerful.
Yeah.
By truly listening, you show that person's that you value their thoughts and experiences.
And it makes you a much more engaging conversationalist.
Exactly.
It all comes down to cultivating, that genuine curiosity in those interactions.
Yeah.
Treat everyone you meet as if they have something, fascinating to say.
Because chances are they do.
They probably do.
Okay, let's navigate a potentially tricky area, navigating difficult conversations.
Difficult conversations, always a fun topic.
I know, right? Well, they offer some really interesting advice here.
Like what?
Like, don't just launch into, your deep, passionately held beliefs unless they specifically ask.
Especially if those beliefs involve, Scorpio.
Especially Scorpios. The author, they definitely have a thing about Scorpios.
It seems that way.
But joking aside, I think the point is be mindful of the context.
Right. Read the room.
Yes. And avoid bringing up, potentially divisive topics that could derail the whole conversation.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Good advice.
And another crucial point, they say, curb the instinct to comment on other people's bodies.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It should go without saying. But
Sometimes we need that reminder.
we do. You just never know what someone might be going through, so it's best to, err on the side of caution.
Absolutely. Be respectful. Be sensitive.
Okay, buckle up, because now we're heading into dealing with difficult people's territory.
Ooh, difficult people. Can't live with them. Can't live without them, right?
Right. Well, this guide gets real about the fact that some people, they're just jerks.
It's true. Some people are just...
They are. And, you can't control their behavior, but you can control how you react to it.
Right. That's key.
And they suggest a surprising approach. Try to pity them a little.
Pity them. Okay, I'm curious.
I know, it sounds weird, right?
A little bit.
But think about it, being a jerk, it's its own form of punishment.
Okay, I see what you mean.
These people, they're probably unhappy, carrying around a lot of baggage.
So by having some compassion, you can detach from their negativity.
Exactly.
Protect your own peace of mind.
Yes.
It's a good way to look at it.
It is. But it's important to remember, compassion doesn't mean accepting bad behavior.
Right. You still have to set boundaries.
You do. You always have the right to protect yourself from toxicity.
Okay. That's important.
Okay, so now let's move into workplace wisdom.
Workplace wisdom. Okay. Hit me with your best advice.
All right, so this guide, one of the first things they emphasize is, letting go of your pride, especially when you're starting out.
Especially in those early days, right?
Yeah, like your first job out of school, it probably won't be your dream job,
Probably not.
but it can still be a valuable learning experience.
Absolutely. Every job can teach you something,
It can,
even if it's what not to do.
even if it's what not to do.
Mm.
The key is approaching even those menial tasks with enthusiasm.
Right. Showing that you're eager to learn.
Yeah. And they even share a story about a friend who went to a top law school,
Oh, wow.
hated it, dropped out, and ended up delivering pizzas.
Wow. Talk about a career change.
I know, right? But because he approached that pizza delivery job with a positive attitude, he ended up finding his true calling and ended up making lawyer money anyway.
Wow. That's awesome.
It is, right?
It's proof that sometimes those detours can lead you to like the best destinations.
Exactly. And speaking of navigating the workplace, another piece of advice is to be observant of, like, office etiquette.
Office etiquette.
Every workplace has its own, like, unspoken rules and social dynamics, you know?
Totally.
So the best way to learn those is by, like, paying attention.
Just observe how your colleagues interact.
Yeah, exactly.
And what's considered appropriate attire and just the general vibe, you know?
The vibe, yeah, it's important.
And then there's that awkward topic of asking for a raise.
Oh, yeah, that could be tough.
It can be, but it's also a crucial part of, like, advocating for yourself.
It is. You got to know your worth.
Exactly. Exactly.
They recommend timing your request, you know, strategically, like after completing a big project.
Oh, or during your annual review.
Yes, yes, good one.
And while it's important to be prepared, you know, and confident,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to negotiate.
Negotiate, yeah. And another thing they highlight, avoid verbally undermining yourself,
Oh, that's a good one.
because it's so easy to fall into that trap,
Yeah.
you know, especially when you're feeling a little insecure.
Right. But the way we talk about ourselves, it influences how others perceive us.
It does.
So it's important to project that confidence.
Even if you don't feel it at first.
Fake it till you make it.
Right. Like instead of saying, I think or I feel, when you're stating your opinion.
Or state it directly.
Yes.
Like
yeah.
you own it.
Okay. Workplace conflicts, they're bound to happen.
Oh, God, they are.
And this guide, they have this really interesting approach.
Okay, what is it?
Kill them with kindness.
Kill them with kindness. Okay.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive,
It does.
but it can actually work wonders.
Really? So how does that work?
Well, they share an example of how they dealt with a particularly challenging coworker.
Oh, we've all had those.
We have. And, you know, instead of getting sucked into that negativity, they just went out of their way to be kind,
Even though it's probably hard.
even though it was tough. And, you know, while it didn't magically transform the relationship,
Right.
it helped to, like, de-escalate the tension
Right.
and create a more, like, professional atmosphere.
So it's like disarming them with kindness.
Exactly.
I like that.
Okay, let's talk about resignation letters.
Resignation letters. Okay.
Even if you're leaving on good terms, you know, it's important to be professional.
Right. Keep it classy.
Keep it classy.
So what are the key points?
Well, thank your employer for the opportunity.
Show your gratitude.
Yes. And highlight those positive aspects.
Focus on the good stuff.
Exactly. Resist the urge to, like, vent or complain.
Right. No negativity.
No negative.
Keep it brief. Keep it professional.
Yes. Yeah.
And focus on those, you know, future intentions.
And speaking of, you know, expressing gratitude, the guide emphasizes paying it forward in your professional network.
Paying it forward. I like that.
Right. Because networking is all about reciprocity.
It is.
When you go out of your way to help someone else, they're more likely to do the same for you down the road.
It's all about building those genuine connections.
It is. It is. Okay, so let's talk about a topic that I know can be a major source of stress.
Hit me with it.
Money matters.
Money matters. Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
It is. It is. And this guide starts by emphasizing the importance of tracking your spending.
Oh, tracking your spending. Because if you don't know where your money's
You
going,
can't make informed decisions.
you can't.
And they suggest a technique. Highlight every unnecessary expense on your bank statement.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
It makes it real.
It makes it real.
You see it in black and white.
It's eye-opening how quickly those, you know, little splurges add up.
They really do. They really do. And once you have that clear picture, you know, you can start creating a budget.
A budget.
And it's not just about, like, being responsible. It's about giving yourself that freedom to spend, you know, guilt-free on those things that you truly value.
Because when you know you're on track.
You can enjoy those little indulgences.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and speaking of avoiding financial stress,
Needle.
let's talk about shopping.
Oh, yes, shopping. So if you're trying to be mindful of your spending, this guide has some, like, tough love.
Yeah, tough love. Let's hear it.
Don't window shop if you can't afford to buy.
Oh, yeah, that's just torture.
It is. It's like self-inflicted.
It is torture. It's like, why are you doing that to yourself?
Right, right. And they recommend going into a store with a specific item in mind.
So you're not tempted by all the shiny things.
Exactly. Avoid those impulse purchases.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And they also have some advice about credit cards.
Oh, credit cards, yeah?
Yeah, they basically say, you know, use them cautiously.
Okay.
And only if you're absolutely confident you can pay them off, you know, in full every month.
Because that credit card debt, it can get out of control so fast.
It really can. It sneaks up on you.
It does. It does. They actually suggest, and this is pretty extreme.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Freezing your credit cards.
Wait, literally?
Literally. like encase them in a block of ice.
So you have to thaw them out before you use them.
Exactly.
Right, that's commitment.
I know, right? But hey, if it works...
If it works, it works.
Okay, speaking of commitments, let's talk about pet ownership.
Pet ownership, all right. One of the best parts of adulting, right?
It is, it is. But, those furry friends, they come with financial responsibilities.
They do, they do. Vet bills, food, toys, it adds up.
It does. This guide, it encourages talking to your vet, about, like, cost-effective options for care.
Oh, that's a good tip. Because vets, they understand that, not everyone can afford those, like, top-of-the-line treatments.
Right, and there are often more affordable alternatives available.
Yeah, it's good to ask.
Yeah. They also recommend buying, decent quality pet food.
Because that can actually save you money in the long run.
It can.
By preventing health issues.
Exactly. A healthy diet goes a long way.
It really does, for pets and humans.
So true. Okay, so we've covered a lot, but we cannot forget about the most important part of adulting.
Okay, what's that?
Taking care of yourself.
Taking care of yourself. Yes, that's key.
It is. And this guide, they acknowledge how hard it can be to maintain a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, it is. Especially with all the temptations around us.
It is, but it's all about those small, sustainable changes, the things you can stick with over time.
Right. Consistency is key.
It is. And one of the most crucial things you can do for your health,
What's that?
prioritize sleep.
Sleep, yes. So important.
It is. It is. Because when you're well rested, you can handle stress better, you make healthier choices, you function better.
It's like a superpower.
It really is. Even small adjustments to your sleep schedule, it can make a world of difference.
Like try to go to bed and wake up around the same time each day.
Yes, even on the weekend.
Even on the weekends. It helps to regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
It does. It does. And of course, we can't forget about, those other cornerstones of good health.
Like exercise and a healthy diet.
Exactly.
Got to move your body and fuel it, Ryan.
All right, so let's talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, friendships.
Friendships? Oh, yeah. Those are the best.
They are. And this guide, they start off with this really reassuring message. It's okay to prefer, like, a small, close-knit group of friends.
Right. Quality over quantity.
Exactly. And they emphasize the importance of, like, being intentional about, building those connections.
Because friendships, they don't just happen. You have to nurture them.
You do. And they suggest, like, reaching out to friends regularly, even if it's just a quick text or call.
Just to let them know you're thinking of them.
Exactly. And speaking of being a good friend, remember the power of listening.
Listening is so important.
It is. Be there for your friends when they need to vent or talk through a problem,
Offer support, encouragement, no judgment.
Exactly. Exactly. And remember, it's okay for friendships to, like, ebb and flow over time.
Yeah, they're not always going to be super intense.
Right. Life happens. Friendships go through periods of, like, closeness and distance.
What the key is to, stay connected and nurture those relationships that really matter.
Okay, last section of the guide, navigating family dynamics.
Family dynamics, buckle up.
I know, right? Well, they start by acknowledging that even in the most loving families, there can be challenges.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Every family has its quirks.
They do. They
Yeah.
do. And they emphasize the importance of, setting boundaries,
Boundaries,
even with family members.
even with family, which can be hard.
It can be. It can be. But it's not about being selfish. It's about protecting your own well-being
Right.
and creating, like, healthy relationships.
So communicate your needs clearly.
Yes, yes. And speaking of respectful communication, they also talk about, accepting apologies gracefully.
Oh, that's important.
It is, right?
Forgiveness is key.
Forgiveness, yeah. Holding on to all that anger and resentment, it just hurts you in the long run.
It really does. It really does.
And for those dealing with, particularly challenging family members, they suggest trying to see things from their perspective.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Even if you don't agree with it, sometimes, that can help to, like, de-escalate conflict.
Right.
And find some common ground.
And if a family member is just, consistently toxic,
Yeah.
they advise, creating some distance, maybe even limiting contact.
You don't have to tolerate abusive or disrespectful behavior from anyone, even family.
Right. It's about prioritizing your own well-being.
And they end this section with such a, like, perfect and relatable reminder.
Okay, let's hear it.
They say, recognize that family is like love, a huge pain in the ass that's worth it 1,000,000 times over.
That's a good one.
Right? It really captures, like, those complexities,
It does.
the challenges, but ultimately, the love and connection are worth it.
They are. Family gives you that sense of, like, belonging and support.
Yes. So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Yes.
From shame boomerangs to mashed potatoes and everything in between.
I know, right? This guide, it really has given us a lot to think about.
It has. So what are some of your, like, biggest takeaways?
For me,
Yeah.
I think it's that reminder that adulting, it's not about, like, this magical state of perfection.
Right, where we have it all figured out.
Right.
Which, let's face it, none of us ever really do.
We don't. It's more about embracing the journey, the ups, the downs, the whole messy thing.
And giving ourselves grace along the way.
Yes.
Because we're all going to mess up. We're all going to make mistakes. It's part of the process.
It is. And this guide, it really does such a good job of breaking those, like, seemingly scary parts of adult life down into, like, smaller,
manageable steps.
Yes, like who knew there was, like, an actual formula for escaping a party?
The appearance and bounds.
Right.
It's a game changer.
It is.
It really is.
You arrive on time, you chat with a few folks, and then you just, oh, I can't stay, but it's been so lovely.
And then you're out.
And you're out.
It's brilliant.
It is, right. And it all comes back to setting those boundaries,
Yeah.
prioritizing your own time.
Absolutely.
And energy.
Sometimes you just got to recharge.
You do.
And speaking of important things, I really liked how they emphasized clear communication.
Oh, that's huge.
Right. In all your relationships, whether it's, with friends, family, at work, being able to express your needs, your feelings, it's so key.
It is?
And on the flip side, being able to accept apologies, too.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Because holding on to that resentment, it eats away at you.
It does.
Forgiveness, it's so important.
It is. Okay, I want to touch on some more practical takeaways from this guide.
Okay, let's hear them.
So, remember that horses, not zebras analogy for those health worries.
Oh, that's a good one.
Right.
Don't jump to the worst case scenario
Exactly.
every time you have a sniffle.
And for those, like, everyday cleaning struggles, who knew Dawn dish soap was, like, the ultimate weapon?
Dawn dish soap, yeah, it really is a cleaning superhero.
It is.
What can't it clean?
And while you're cleaning, declutter.
Oh, yeah, get rid of all that stuff you don't need.
It makes a difference.
It really does. Creates a much more, like, peaceful atmosphere.
Yes, exactly.
Oh.
Okay, and then in the kitchen, remember, ditch those instant mashed potatoes.
Go for the real deal.
The real deal. They're so easy to make, and honestly, so much better.
And don't forget the roasted garlic.
Oh, the roasted garlic.
Game changer.
It makes everything better.
It really does.
Okay, and then for, if you want to really impress,
Puff pastry.
the puff pastry.
It's so versatile.
It is. You can do so much with it.
And don't forget that homemade whipped cream.
Oh, yeah. That recipe?
Apparently, when God is happy, he cries real whipped cream.
It's a beautiful image.
It is.
Okay, let's wrap things up with a few final, like, words of wisdom from this guy.
I'm ready.
So at work, check your pride at the door.
Be eager to learn.
Yes.
And watch those office politics.
The office politics, yeah.
Be observant.
Be observant. And when it comes to finances, remember, track that spending,
Create
a budget, and try to resist those impulse purchases.
And if all else fails, freeze those credit cards.
Freeze those cards. All right, and then for our furry friends, remember, talk to your vet about those cost-effective options.
There are ways to keep those pets healthy without breaking the bank.
And invest in that good quality food.
Because it's worth it.
It is. Okay, and most importantly,
Take care of yourself.
yes, prioritize that sleep.
Get some exercise.
Eat well,
Nourish your body.
and build those healthy habits.
It's all about those small steps.
It is.
And don't forget to stay connected with those friends.
The friends, yes.
Those relationships are so important.
They are. And with family, remember, healthy boundaries, clear communication, and forgiveness, those are key.
It's about building those strong, respectful relationships.
It is. So that's it. Our deep dive into adulting is officially complete.
We made it.
We made it. We've explored so much, from those shame boomerangs to, the mashed potatoes, to navigating all the ups and downs of, like, work and relationships.
Adulting, it's a journey.
It is.
It really is. And this guide, it's given us a lot to think about.
It has. And, if you're looking for even more wisdom on how to navigate this whole adulting thing, we highly recommend checking out this guide, Adulting.
It's packed with practical advice, it's relatable, and it's got a good dose of humor.
It does. It does. And remember, adulting, it's a lifelong process. We're all just figuring it out as we go.
So be kind to yourselves.
Be kind to yourself. Celebrate those small wins.
And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Ask for help when you need it. So, until next time, happy adulting.